I'm so sorry that I'm a piece of shit. Throughout time, certain cars have risen to painful heights of fame, gained a cult-like following with their reputation being strictly based around false information, inflated statistics, movie fame, or simply just great marketing. But rarely do these cars actually live up to the hype that they are surrounded by. The USDM market is especially a really weird place when you start to consider the retro-futuristic stuff. There's a lot of conservative nature about the USDM cars, in the fact that not a lot of stuff changes by more than 10 to 15% per generation unless they're actually forced to, which leaves a lot of weird subpar performing cars left to people with low budgets and huge egos. Before we jump right in, I'm super excited to tell you about our new giveaway. This time we teamed up with Rotoform to create some awesome new merch for you guys that includes this incredibly versatile sun hat and some absolutely banging t-shirts for you guys. And of course, every $5 you spend gets you entered to win a set of Rotoform friggin' wheels. Get yours before they're gone because they're not gonna last long. And of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and head over to fitmentindustries.com to browse the most comprehensive wheel, tire, and suspension store of all time. And while you're there, make sure to add your car to the gallery and be sure to stick around for the last car on this list. You're really not gonna like what I have to say about it. This is my list of the 5 most overrated USDM cars on the market today. The first car on this list may very well break your soul. The Ford Focus RS hit the ground running with its impressive stats on paper and marketing aimed at cementing the Ford performance name in the mind of young enthusiasts. Ford used the Focus RS to take their shot at the rally-inspired all-wheel drive turbocharged market with the Evo 10 and the STI directly in their sights. But in typical USDM fashion, they only made the car 10–15% better than its competition, which is super duper ultra awesome before and during its release. But as the cars got about 6 months to a year old, the hype started dying down and the truth started coming out. Sure, the RS was quicker than both the STI and the Evo, but the new at the time STI and Evo was a pretty low set bar, to be honest, and the RS fell victim to the same issues that the Evo and the STI did. And that's where they're kind of bad at everything, everywhere. Even though they handled marginally well for a heavy hatchback, they're very stiff riding cars and they're a pain in the ass to commute in. And just like its competition, they lost tons of power through drivetrain loss. These things are making under 300 wheel horsepower with a really peaky power band. They climb to peak power around 5,000 RPM and then they fall directly on their face after that. This means that maximum thrust is within a very small window of its rev range, only allowing it to achieve mid to high 13 seconds in the quarter mile. Now, I know it's not all about quarter mile times, it's a rally car, but the quarter mile is one of the best representations of how a car's power is actually put to the ground. And in this case, not very well. Furthermore, these cars don't take that well to modifications either. You're looking at very basic bolt-ons and then you're kind of capped out without the risk of catastrophic failure. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the look, the sound, and the whole idea around the Focus RS. But at the end of the day, the performance is as lackluster as its Evo and STI rivals and still demands premium money. I would know, I tried to scoop a cheap one. Anyway, because of all those reasons, the Focus RS is underdeveloped and overrated. If the next car on this list was a person, they would be wearing a stained white undershirt, have a bunch of tribal tattoos, a fake gold chain, and 100% rocking a goatee. Everywhere I go, there's some guy in a straight-piped 2009 Challenger weaving in and out of traffic, flipping people off, and trying to race anybody that even looks at them. And they also think that everything that's not a Mopar is a piece of Jap crap. The 3rd generation Challenger is arguably one of the most overhyped modern muscle cars of all time. And at over 2 tons, it's impressive for the time. 370 horsepower, the Challenger RT was only able to muster very high 13s and low 14s in the quarter mile. And this is pretty bad for that much power and hype. To put that into perspective, my PT Cruiser with a downpipe and a tune ran high 13s with a faster strap speed than the Challenger. Not only that, but the Challenger wasn't as new and as original as you may think. Mopar used a ton of Mercedes parts for the development and the production of the Challenger, including the W220 S-Class's control arm front suspension and the W211 E-Class's 5-link rear suspension, and also the transmission and the differential and the ESP system electronics. Need I keep going? There's a huge list. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Mopar absolutely nailed it with the looks on this thing, and they even paved the way for the pony car wars to come. But the amount of ego associated with people who think these cars are fast just because it looks like a muscle car is far too high. You know what? I take back the RT thing. This goes for all non-SRT8 designated challengers. Non-SRT challengers are surrounded by all the muscle car hype without the muscle car performance, and for that reason, the third generation Dodge Challenger non-SRTs are underdeveloped and overrated. Let's move on. Next up is a car that fell victim to its own entry-level price point and massive aftermarket support. The Dodge Neon SRT4 is one of those cars that everybody wanted, and it's okay, you can admit it, I won't judge you. But it's not because Mopar built an actually good car, but because Mopar brought it to life at the perfect time. We're talking about the release of a turbocharged car based on an entry-level model with competitive pricing at peak Fast and Furious Need for Speed time. With that, the internet as an entertainment hub was just starting to gain traction, and only 1 year after axing the SRT4 Neon, YouTube launched, and shortly after that, videos of heavily modified SRT4s stomping on V8s would be ingrained into our minds for years to come. This has led to an almost Mark IV Super-like phenomenon where a lot of people thought every SRT4 was uber fast. Even owners of these cars in stock form have inflated egos because of this, and they're friggin' 230 horsepower Neons. What a bunch of nerds. Now, don't get me wrong, the 2.4-liter turbocharged Mopar engine from the PT Cruiser is a fantastic bit of hardware, but it's not some overdeveloped race car engine with exotic internals, and this is why you see a ton of these cars left as project cars or being parted out. People push the stock bottom end too hard with too little care because they heard a story once that some guy from Utah on the forum said he made 450 wheel horsepower with a big wheel stock turbo on stock internals and E85 with big injectors. It's just not realistic. Ask me how I know. And don't even get me started on the third gear grind issue. With that, the Neon SRT4 offers about as much comfort as a base model Neon. Power windows, not on the back doors, soft touch materials, good joke. I hope you like squeaks and rattle, and is surrounded by a ton of undeserving hype. And for that reason, I dubbed the SRT4 Neon overhyped and overrated. The 5th generation of Camaro was a car that won over the hearts of many who have been missing their beloved pony car since Chevrolet discontinued the Camaro in 2001 for the 2002 model year. It had gobs of horsepower for the time, and it had that retro futuristic design on lock just like the Challenger did. And these things sold like friggin' hotcakes. But you know what they say, the early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese, and that's exactly what happened here. At the time, 300 horsepower was enough to impress the market. So when the new Camaro launched, the 426 horsepower LS3 in a lighter package than the Challenger was as crazy to us in 2009 as the 700 horsepower Hellcat is to us today. But when the Camaro started releasing its numbers like an eager schoolboy who couldn't keep a secret, the new Camaro was the car to beat, and it didn't take long for its competition to start taking shots. Nowadays, the 5th generation Camaro, even compared to its four-door brother, the G8 GT, has trouble keeping up with the pack. In not magazine testing situations, the 5th gen Camaro SS was doing high 13s in the quarter mile, and they stood no chance against the up-and-coming Coyote Mustangs or the SRT8 392s, who were all dipping into the 12s with amateur drivers. But the hype surrounding them seems to not have went away, and the egos have only seemed to get worse. And I think that largely has to do with one thing, the Transformers movies. Transformers cemented the new Camaro into everybody's minds as a badass car, even if it's only an okay enough pony car. Now, don't get it twisted, I'm not some Camaro hater. I really enjoyed the 6th gen in every way imaginable. But the 5th gen was just so 2010 Chevrolet with build quality and overinflated statistics to cause false hype. Some may call this good marketing, I call it overrated. Next! Rumors surrounding the C8 Corvette goes back to 2014, and it's been 6 freaking years since we jumped on that hype train, and it took way too friggin' long to come to life. The mid-engine Corvette has been outed so often, spotted so much in the wild, acting like they didn't want you to see them, even though I'm pretty convinced that that's exactly what they wanted, and they leaked so much information about the car, putting the C8 on a pedestal so high that when it actually came down to the production model, it produced less than stellar results. I like to call this Supra syndrome because by the time Toyota unveiled their new sports car at the 2019 North American International Auto Show, it felt like we already had a pretty good idea of what the car would look like and how it would perform. And thus, the excitement was gone. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the mid-engine Corvette isn't exciting, nor am I saying that it's not a supercar slayer on a budget. Corvette engineers have been doing this for decades, except for the C3. The C3 fucking sucks. But you can't thrive on the hype and then deliver something that you led us to believe is gonna be world-shattering and give us something with lackluster performance. And the other thing that really grinds my gears is all of you are gonna say, yeah, well, the C8 starts at under $60,000. And that's just dumb because when you boast about the stats of the C8, you're not referring to the base model without any of the performance stuff, let alone the tires you get with the Z51 package. Now, maybe they will win my heart when the Z06 comes out or even the ZR1, but even then, we've already been hearing rumors from really credible sources that are saying the ZR1 is going to have a hybrid all-wheel drive system, which is absolutely mind-blowing. But with all the ideas and speculation in our minds about this, how are they supposed to exceed our expectations? I don't know if they actually can. And for that reason, the C8 Corvette is overhyped and overrated. But that about wraps up this special USDM episode of Over Under. Be sure to leave a comment about what cars you guys think are overrated or what you think that I got completely wrong. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We upload every single freaking day. And don't forget to head over to our secondary channel, Fitment Industries Garage, where we cover a lot more of the technical stuff about fitment and suspension, tires, we do wheel reviews, all kinds of really cool stuff. And also head over to fitmentindustries.com for all of your wheel, tire, and suspension needs. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our giveaway where you can win a set of Rotiform wheels. We'll leave a link to that in the description. I'm Sean for Fitment Industries, SeanB.fi on Instagram. Please stop sending me hate mail. Peace.